All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine, and I'm with SEB Housing, and tonight I'm going to run the lottery for the 53 affordable rental units at Alexan, Waltham. So I'll get the lottery underway in just a few minutes. Before doing that, just want to give you some background information on who we had for applicants and to give you some ideas on next steps. So as you came into this session, you probably heard this meeting is being recorded, and that is because it's going to be posted to SEB Housing's YouTube channel, and it's going to be sent to every lottery applicant, just in case someone was not able to join tonight. If you have any questions during the session, you can type them into the Zoom chat, or you can let me know, and you can unmute yourself. You were automatically muted when you came into the session, just to minimize outside noise. Bear with me too, because I'm getting over being sick, so I might have to cough a couple times. I'll put myself on mute as well if that happens. So everyone should already have their lottery application number, and that is in the form of a series of numbers. So if you were the first person to get your lottery application number, your number is A.001. In this case, the numbers go up to A.956. There were only, I don't mean to say only, but there was 890 completed applications for this lottery. The numbers go up to 956 because there were several duplicates, so we had to remove about 66 applications there. So that brought the number down to 890 total completed applications for this lottery. So a very popular lottery. And before I move on at all, I want to share that the development team for Alexan Waltham has informed us that there have been some delays at the property. These units were originally scheduled to be ready for occupancy this month, so in March, and that's no longer the case. They now expect that the affordable units won't be ready to lease until sometime in June. So what that means is there's going to be a delay between tonight, which is the lottery, and the next step in the process. Normally, after the lottery, the top households on the waiting list would be very quickly invited forward by the leasing office, and you'd be doing a lease screening with the leasing office, but that won't be happening until at least May, they're thinking, because if the units will be ready in June, they're hoping to have their leasing office ready for May. So we don't have contact information or anything for you yet in terms of getting in touch with the leasing office. They don't have that set up yet. These were unexpected delays. But we appreciate your patience. And when we do have that information, we will share it with everybody who was an applicant of this lottery. Okay, so these affordable units are being offered at 2 income tiers. So as you, I'm sure, saw in the application and all of the information that you've already seen, 14 of the units will be available to households with annual incomes at or below 60% of the area median income for Waltham, Boston. And the remaining 39 affordable units will be available to households with annual incomes at or below 80% of the area median income. So to give you an idea of who applied, so for the studio units, those are only available at 80% AMI. There was 100 completed applications. For the 1-bedroom 80% AMI, there were 277 applicants. For the 2-bedroom 80% AMI, there were 186 applicants. For the 3-bedroom 80% AMI, there were 128 applicants. And then for the 60% units, and by the way, all of this information is going to be in a document that's sent to you after tonight, with more information too, the breakdown of how many households are type 1 or larger households and all of that. So for the 60% units, for the 1-bedroom 60% AMI units, there were 381 applicants. For the 2-bedroom 60% AMI units, there were 255 applicants. And then finally, for the 3-bedroom 60% AMI unit, there were 150 applicants. So back when you completed your lottery application, you indicated on that application, and then SCB Housing confirmed for you based on your household members, whether you were a household type 1, 2, or 3. And that basically corresponds with how many people are in your household and the breakdown of that. But what you want to keep in mind for this lottery is that for the 3-bedroom waiting list, type 3 households are going to have priority over type 2 households. And then on the 2-bedroom waiting list, type 2 households are going to have priority over any type 1 household. So that's because the affordable housing program is designed so that households don't have priority for larger units than what their household might actually require. And then also for this lottery in particular, 1-person households are not able to rent 2-bedroom units, and 2-person households cannot rent 3-bedroom units unless a member of the household has a disability that requires a reasonable accommodation for an extra bedroom. So basically, when I do the drawing tonight, I still need to sort the results after the fact. So you're not going to know when you're watching the drawing tonight, or as we go through the results of it, you're not going to know where you fall on the waiting list until I do the sorting, which I'll do later on today. And I need to sort the results by priority. So household type that I just mentioned, local preference in some cases, and whether or not your household requires the features of that one hearing accessible unit. So you'll see more about kind of what I mean by that, but the good news is even though you might not know a whole lot about where you're going to fall on the waiting list tonight, I am going to make every effort to get the waiting lists that are sorted out to you by tomorrow morning, and along with everybody else who applied for the lottery. So there's going to be 2 lottery drawings tonight, and I'm going to be using a website called random.org to complete those drawings. I'm going to screen share with you so you can see it. The first drawing is going to be the local preference drawing, and that's going to include all of the households, all of the applicants who indicated that they either live in Waltham, work full-time in the city, or have children attending the city's public schools. There were 249 households that indicated that they fall under that priority. And when I do that drawing, I'm going to insert basically the 249 lottery application numbers of those households are going to be put into this randomizer function that I'll show you on the screen in just a minute. And that'll generate a random order of the lottery application numbers. It's just a way to try to keep this drawing as truly random as possible. And it's transparent because you'll be able to see the results on the screen. After that local preference drawing, I'll do the general drawing, which includes all of the applicants for this lottery. So 890 lottery households, those lottery application numbers will be put into that same website, and you'll be able to see the results on the screen. So I'm going to screen share with you right now, just so you can kind of see a demo of what that's going to look like. This isn't the drawing yet, but I just want to kind of give you a heads up of what it looks like. One question came in here: when can we tour the development? As far as I know, it is not available for tours right now. You will, of course, have a tour before, reserving a unit if you were called forward. But I anticipate if the leasing office is set up for May, then you should be able to get in there for May, probably not before. And then someone asked here, is it a brand new property? Yep, this is new construction. All right, so I'm going to screen share real quick here just so you can see what I mean by this random.org website. So when I actually do the drawing, you'll be able to see that as well. So this, I'm just going to screen share. Again, this is not the drawing yet, but you should be able to see just this basic looking website called random.org. I'm going to scroll down and go to list randomizer. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do 5 numbers. When I copy and paste the lottery application numbers in here in just a few minutes to do the actual drawing, they're going to be in the format that you're familiar with. So if your lottery number is A.001, it's going to look like that. It's going to say A.001. But just for demo purposes, the demonstration here, I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to click randomize. And then what it did was it basically just spit out those 5 numbers in a random order. So in this case, well, that's not the most random looking order, but as you can see, if I did it again, it's not going to come back with the same order, right? So it just kind of, it does that for us. So when I put in all of the numbers in just a moment, you're going to see that, it's going to sort either the 249 numbers for the local preference household or the 890 applicants for the general drawing. So I'm going to screen share again in just a few minutes when I do the actual drawing, but I'm going to stop sharing right now just for a minute. Okay, just for some more background information, like I said, after tonight's lottery, either tonight or tomorrow morning, you're going to get an email. It's either going to come from info@scbhousing.com or no reply at scbhousing.com. It's SCB Housing sending you an email with the next steps in the process, more details about what I am talking about tonight, the breakdown of who applied, and then also the waiting list are going to be attached as well. So at that point, you'll be able to find your lottery application number on the waiting list, and you'll see where you're falling on each of those waiting lists. If you applied for more than one unit size, or if you're eligible for more than one income tier, like the 60% or the 80% income tier, you're going to find your lottery application number on more than one waiting list. So when you were emailed your lottery application number from SCB Housing, it should have indicated in that email which units that you're eligible for, and that's where you're going to want to look to find your lottery application number. So if that email said you were eligible for 1 bedroom 80% and 2 bedroom 80%, those are the two those are the two waiting lists that you're going to find your application number on. So you'll have that email. When you receive that email, you're going to see that the top households on each waiting list are highlighted in green. That normally indicates that those are the first households. Those are the households that are going to be invited by the leasing office right away to complete the next step in the process. In this case, since there's that delay that I mentioned and the leasing office isn't going to be ready to move on to that next step until at least May, the application numbers that are in green, it's still the top households on the waiting list. Those are the households who are eventually going to be the first applicants invited to move forward in the process to complete a lease application with the leasing office. And that lease application normally includes like a credit check, background check, reference checks, that sort of thing. And then again, just a reminder, because of that delay, that's not going to happen until May. So you won't be hearing from the management team over at Alexan Waltham or from SCB Housing after you get that email tonight or tomorrow. You won't be hearing from us for about 2 months with the leasing office's contact information. And when the time comes to begin those lease screenings, the leasing office is going to invite more households than there are available units. That's typical for any management team just because they're trying to get these units leased up. And there's a lot of times applicants drop off. They're maybe ineligible for the program, it turns out, after we do our screenings. Or maybe they've just changed their mind about renting at the property. So they will be inviting quite a few people forward at first. So at that point, if you're one of the people who's found lease eligible, if you're a household with the highest position on a particular waiting list, you're going to have the first chance to select and reserve a unit. So if you're not one of the top households on the waiting list, you're not going to be moving forward in the process right away. But if someone ahead of you on the waiting list moves forward, then you'll be contacted. So for example, there's 2 studio 80% units. If you're the 3rd person on that waiting list, you're not going to be contacted right away potentially, but if someone ahead of you on the waiting list does not choose to rent one of those units, you will be moving forward, which usually happens. Usually it's not the first person on each waiting list that leases the unit. It usually takes about 5 people to lease one unit. So don't lose hope if you're really interested in this opportunity and you're not one of the top households on any of the waiting lists. And so just a reminder too, we've only done kind of like a preliminary review of your application. You didn't have to submit your income verification to us yet, so like pay stubs or any of that has not come into us yet. You've just self-reported what your income is, and after you are lease screened by the leasing office, that's when you'd come back to SCB Housing and you need to submit all of that supporting verification to us. And again, that wouldn't be till at least May or June that you'd be coming back to SCB Housing. So just keep in mind, you know, if you are one of these top households on the waiting list, keep your pay stubs aside, or, you know, just know that you'll have to print them out for us online or scan them over to us when the time comes if you are moving forward in this application process. And then just a reminder too that if you end up leasing one of these affordable units, just a reminder that any households that are living in a affordable apartment, you would need to have a recertification done every year. So if you leased a unit, for example, for July 1st or June 1st of this year, somewhere around this time in 2026, you would be asked by the leasing office to provide updated income information to them to confirm if you're still eligible for the affordable housing program. So just keep that in mind. Usually we just recommend that, you know, tenants have a like a folder set aside just with information that they might need to submit to the leasing office. And we have a couple questions here. How did you get into either the 60% or 80% group? So it depends on your income. So if your total household income is below 60% of the Boston area median income, which was all listed on like the front page of the application, page 4 or 5 of the information packet, all of that. If you fall under that amount, you'll be eligible for the 60% unit. If you fall between if you fall below the 80% units, then you will be eligible for the 80% units. If you fall above the 80% AMI, you're not eligible for the opportunity at all. Since the office isn't open until May, does that mean that we have an extended period to send the documentations from the guide? Yeah, so nobody should be sending any documentation yet. The top households on each waiting list will want to gather that information to have it ready for May. But yeah, nobody wants to be sending in anything yet. A couple other questions here. If income assistance from a Waltham relative is available, but I didn't put it on my application because I think I qualify without it, will I have an opportunity to present that info later if my income itself falls short? I'm not sure what you mean by a Waltham relative, but any income source that you have, even if it's financial support from a family member, should be listed. If it's, you know, a recurring contribution to your household income, for example, it should be listed on the. It should have been listed on your lottery application. When the time comes to actually submit verification of your income, we'll just be asking for certain things to verify what was on your application. And obviously, if anything has changed, you'll just want to let us know. If you were approved for this lottery, it means that whatever income that you self-reported on your income qualified you for the lottery. If you didn't have enough income to qualify for the lottery, or if you had too much income to qualify for the lottery, you would have been sent a denial letter already. Question here is just a direct message to me. It says, I can't see the numbers. How do I see if I was picked? The drawing hasn't happened yet. It's about to happen now. But as a reminder, everyone, so all 890 applicants, all the application numbers are going to be selected, meaning that this drawing isn't just for 53 numbers because there's 53 units available. Everyone is going to have a placement on these waiting lists. You're just not going to know where your placement is on the waiting list because I still have to sort the results after this drawing. So before I start the drawing now, does anyone have any other questions? Looks like there's about 50 people on the call. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to get a little chaotic because I'm going to do the drawing. And then I know even though the waiting lists aren't going to be populated until after I do the sorting and everything, you're on this call now because you're curious enough to see where your number is drawn during the lottery. So I'm going to basically ask that you put your number in the chat, not now, but after I do the drawing. If you don't see your number, because scrolling through almost 900 numbers, it's going to be difficult for you to see where you fell, right? So I'll be able to look that up for you if you just put it in the message there. So right now, I'm going to screen share again. And I'm going to go back to random.org, and I'm going to screen share once I get it set up here. All right, now I'm screen sharing. Once again, you should be able to see kind of the same basic looking website. And I'm about to do the local preference drawing for Alexan Waltham, the 53 affordable units at Alexan Waltham. The local preference drawing is going to include the 249 application numbers, which represent the 249 households who indicated that they have local preference. So they live in Waltham, they work full-time within Waltham, or they have a child who goes to Waltham Public Schools. So I'm going to show you how I have those numbers. So I'm going to go to just a spreadsheet here. This is the local drawing number. So there's 249 numbers here. It looks like 250 because there's a column header there. And I'm going to just copy and paste these numbers. These are the 249 numbers of local preference households in this drawing. Because some of the waiting lists for this lottery have a preference for local households. Not all, and everyone is going to have a placement on that local preference list. It just means that local preference households have a better or a more favorable position on the waiting list, on those waiting lists. Okay, I'm going to click randomize. It shows that there were 249 items, and I'm going to copy and paste these. Don't worry. You'll be able to see where you fell in just a moment. I'm just going to bring them over to the spreadsheet. It's a little easier to read and for me to sort later, but also for you to see on the screen. So just give me a second here. I'm going to do both drawings before checking on numbers for you. So I'm going to save this. This was the local preference drawing. So for example, if your lottery number was A.730, you were drawn first, and so on. And if you, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so I'm going to also save this as a Word doc, just so I have the results. And all right. So that was the local preference drawing. I'm going to do the, I'm going to completely get out of this and then go to the list randomizer again to do the general drawing, which is going to include all 890 application numbers, which are here. I know I have some chat Yeah, so just making sure. So it's just your numbers here. I'm going to get to those numbers. How many units will have local preference? Good question. I'll bring up the information packet real quick before we do the next one. Okay. So on page 11 of the information packet, it shows the local preference waiting lists first. It's 70% of the units. Forget the actual number here, but it's all of these units. So 4 of the 60%, 1 bedrooms, and so on. So it goes from here to here. You can see these lists will have priority for local preference households. And then these are the open lists. There's another page too. These are the open lists, which mean that households with local preference don't have a higher priority than anyone else on those open lists. All right. And again, as you can see, even in the local priority list, your household type weighs more heavily than whether or not you're a local preference household. So for example, for these 2-bedroom units, if you're a type 2 or type 3 household, even if you don't have local preference, you have a higher priority than like a 1-person household who's looking to rent a 2-bedroom unit, or even just a type 1 household. All right, so I'm going to again, everyone's lottery number is selected in this, but I'm going to go back in just a moment to look them up for you. But for right now, I'm going to do the general drawing. So this is the second and final drawing. I have selected 890 application numbers now. That represents everyone who applied for this lottery and was approved for the lottery based on their lottery application that was sent in. This is the general drawing for Alexan Waltham. So randomize, and I'm going to take this data, the biggest lottery we've had in a while. I'm going to copy all this info into my spreadsheet, the general drawing info here, and just bear with me for another few moments because now we'll have just a better look at everything here. I'm going to copy this into a Word doc too. And I'm going to leave this on the screen just for a second so you can see like the top 16, although that's not really going to show much to you. But and I will get back to you in just a moment on all those messages that we have, because I know that you're anxious to see where you fell. So I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to hide this so it's a little easier to look at. All right, so I'm going to try to make it just a little bit bigger. I don't know how much that helps for you to see, but I'm going to go back up now through the chat, and it looks like the first person who sent a message was A.459. So now that was the drawing. I still need to sort the results, so this isn't going to tell you a whole lot, but at least if you know that your number was drawn, you know, in a really favorable position, you were at the top of the list, then you may be towards the top of one of the waiting lists. All right, so I'm going to look up A.459 and tell you where you were drawn. So A.459, as you can see on the local drawing list, you were 216th. And on the general list, sorry, I have to put workbook. On the general list, you were drawn 518th. 449 was the next here, A.449. In the general drawing, you were drawn 316th. You were not on the local list. All right, the next one here is A.889. You were drawn 224th in the general drawing. You were not on the local list. 581. You were drawn 573rd in the general drawing, not on the local list. 581. Okay. 472. You were drawn 356th in the general drawing. 500, A.532. You were drawn 652nd in the general, not on the local list. A.817. You were drawn 787th on the general list. A.092. Yeah, A.092. You were 140th on the general drawing list. And on the local list, you were 98th. 717. On the local list, you were 147th. On the general list, you were 847th. A.730. 578th on the general list. Oh, there you are. Yep, on the local list, you were first. Now I see what you meant by that. All right, 473. A.473, you were 475th in the general drawing. On the local, hold on 1 second here. Hold on, local list, 473. On the local list, 473, you were 91st. Yep, 717, I already looked up. Oh, yep, you said one more time here. So A717. You were 147th on the local list. And 847th on the general list. All right, we have A.633. A.633. Excel doesn't like me right now, I don't know. Okay, on the local list, 160, you were 168th. That's A.633. On the general list, A.633 on the general list, you were, sorry, hold on a minute. On the general one, something is happening here. A.633. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to make this search in just the spot that I want. In the general list, A.633, you were 570th. There you are. A.481. On the general list, you're second. And on the local list, looks like it wants to find you on the local list. On the local list, you were 89. That's A.481.
Yes.
A.491. Hold on 1 second. All right, A.491 is next. Let me switch it to this again. You were 476 on the general list. A.190. You were 300th in the general list. And 70th in the local list. That's A.190. Next is A.523. On the general list, you were 240th, not on the local list. A.766. You were 701st on the general list. A.120, 120. You were 557th in the general list and 49th in the local list. A.313. You were 219th in the local drawing. On the general list, you came at, oh, hold on a minute, I went back to local. A.313, you were 24th on the general list. A.231, you were 636 on the general list, not on the local. A.897, you were 368 in the general list, not on the local list. A.631, you were 192nd on the general list. A.567, on the general list, you were 765th, not on the local list. A.407, you were 751st on the general list. And then on the local, .407, A.407, you were 60th on the local list. A.721, A.721, you were 350th in the general list. A.364, you were 85th in the local list. And in the general list, you were 37th. That's A.364. A.357. A.357, you were 689th on the general list. A.291, you were 516th on the general list. And you are on the local list, I believe, but I have to do this to look at it. Okay, local list, A.291, you were 165th. A.201 is next. You were 144th on the local list. That's A.201. On the general list, you were 51st. That's A.201. All right, A.700. On the general list, you were 26th. And not on the local list. A.928. You were 218th on the general list and 163rd on the local list. A.327. You were 855th in the general drawing. A.244. You were 372nd. 372nd on the general list. And A.472. You were 356 on the general list. Next is A.952. You were 511th on the general drawing list. Oh, correction here. A.631. A.631, you were 192nd on the general list. Next is A.733. You were 774th in the general drawing. A.358. A.358. You were 670th in the general drawing. Is general and local different? I thought I was general, but could be wrong. So only households who qualified for local preference or who indicated that they have local preference based off of the fact that they either live in Waltham full-time, work within the city full-time, or have a child that goes to school at public schools in Waltham full-time. If you indicated that one of those applies to you, you'll have to verify that after the fact, but you'll have a placement on both of these, or your lottery number would have been drawn in both the local preference drawing and the regular general drawing that I'm reading the results of right now. Everyone is going to have every lottery application number is going to be on both of the lists. So if you applied for a 1-bedroom, 80% AMI unit, your lottery application number is going to have a placement on both the local list and the general list, regardless of whether or not you have local preference. It's just on the local preference waiting list, the local preference households, the households who qualify for local preference, are going to have a higher position on those waiting lists than households who don't have local preference. All right, so another thing here, A.572. You were 17th in the general drawing. Looks like you were in the local list too, so let me just isolate that. A.572, you were 229th on the local list. And again, you were 17th on the general list. A.556, you were 816th on the general list. Yep, and someone's asking here, can you show the screen that shows how many lottery units for each type are available? Yeah, I'll do that in just a minute. I just want to get through these numbers. All right, A.491 is next. You were 476 on the general drawing. A.481, your second. And 89th on the local list. A.869. A.869. You were 410th on the general list. A.889. You were 224th on the general list. A dot, excuse me, 210. You were 801st on the general list. A dot 942. You were 231st on the general list. A dot 131. You were 325th. A dot 481. You were second on the local list and 89th on the general list. I'm sorry, 89th on the general list and second on the local list is what I meant to say there. All right, so that's the numbers that were sent to me, but I know there's some questions here. Can you please show the screen that shows how many lottery units for each type are available? Sure. So this is the information packet for Alexan Waltham. And so this is the local preference list. When I sort the results of these waiting lists tonight, this is what I'm looking at. So if you're someone who applied for a 1-bedroom, 60% unit, and you are going to be on that waiting list, there are going to be 4 units that are on the local preference list. There's also going to be 1 additional, well, hold on. 4, 6, 60%, 1-bedroom. Yep, so there's only local preference for this one. But for example, all of these, there's going to be 13 waiting lists for this property. So you're going to likely be on more than 1 waiting list if your household qualified for more than 1 unit size, or you applied for more than 1 unit size and you were found eligible for it. So this is how it's broken out. I'm going to be sorting the results tonight, and they're going to be sent to you by tomorrow, if all goes well. But I don't expect any delays with that. So this is what this is how it's going to be broken down here. If you have the info packet already, this is on page 11. There's a bunch of different waiting lists for this property, just because of the different unit sizes and the different income tiers and all of that. Hold on, there was a couple other questions here. Yeah, and then again, just a question on, I know it's confusing, especially because the waiting list hasn't even been created yet, but what does it mean by numbers for general and local? So someone was confused by that. So there were 2 drawings tonight. There was a drawing for local preference households, and there was a drawing for everybody, even households who don't have local preference. So the reason we have to do that is because when I am sorting the results, I need to have an order of priority for the local preference list and then for the general list. So the lists that have local preference, I need to know who has a higher priority based off of where they were drawn tonight for the local preference household. So that's the only reason that we need to differentiate like that. So let me, hold on a second, I need to go back to, I think I got all of these numbers. How many are selected? This is a good question, but it's not one I can really answer. So how many are selected from the local list before the general list? That all depends, well, it depends on how quickly the units are leased. So if you have a placement on a local preference waiting list and you don't have local preference, there's probably going to be several dozen households ahead of you on the waiting list. We don't know who's going to lease the unit and how long it's going to take for that to happen. But there's a lot of these unit types have both local and non-local priority waiting lists. So like if I look at the 60% one bedroom AMI units, there's 4 of them that are going to be leased with local preference, and then an additional 2 are going to be leased without local preference. How many units are available? So there's 53 affordable units in total. How can we know if we've been selected? So everyone is going to have a position on at least one waiting list. And you're not going to know until after I sort the results tonight where you fall on those waiting lists. Excuse me. So you'll know more after tonight. But everyone has a list. Everyone has a placement on the waiting list, and everyone was called. Every number was in the lottery tonight. It's not just, sometimes you think of a lottery, you think, there's 53 affordable units, there's going to call 53 numbers, but that's not the case here. Is there an example website of what the place looks like inside? I don't know. I don't think they have a website that we were made aware of. I looked this up before the information session last month. No, they don't have a property website. My guess is they will have a property website, but they may have had delays with that as well. Because like I said, their leasing office is not up yet, not up and running yet. So I'm assuming they will have that soon, but it looks like it's not. It's not up yet. So it looks like there's a couple other people, before I let you go, there's a couple other people who are asking for the numbers. So I'm going to look that up real quick. A.190. You were 300th in the general drawing, and you were 70th on the local list, or on the local drawing. A.114. You were 80th in the local list, local drawing, I should say. These aren't the lists yet. And then in the general drawing, you were 398th. No, it's in terms of like what's going on with the government. I haven't. No, there's no. These are units that have already been built. There's nothing that should be, impacting the affordable units or anything like that. This isn't a federal program or anything like that. It is a state program. A.469. Sorry, Excel is being a little tricky right now. A.469. You were 135th on the local drawing. And in the general drawing, why am I doing that again? A.469. On the general drawing, you were 166. So that's it. I mean, the lottery drawing was just held, but again, you don't know a whole lot yet. You know whether or not your number was kind of in the middle of the pack, at the beginning, at the end. But I still have to sort the results onto all of those waiting lists. You don't know who ahead of you applied for the same unit types, same income tiers, any of that. So, I appreciate your patience, and especially with the delays that are going to be coming up. We hope that everyone is able to, just bear with us while the management team gets up and running over there. And the next step in the process will be, unfortunately, not until May, when they're able to screen for lease eligibility. And we'll be in touch either from info@SDB Housing or no reply at SDB Housing. You'll get that email to us from us by tomorrow morning. Yeah, someone's asking here just the physical address. I hope it's on the first page of on the info pack there. So it's 79 Pond Street in Waltham. So that's where Alexan Waltham is located. And again, on this first page here, it said they're expected to be ready for occupancy in March, but unfortunately, that's been pushed back to June. So we'll be in touch over the next couple of days, just today or tomorrow, with the excuse me, with the results, so the waiting list. But it's not going to be until May that you're moving on to the next step in the process. And yeah, the 73 Pond Street, that's just the name of the property owner. 79 is the actual physical address. Thank you all again. I appreciate you joining in, and we'll be in touch very soon. Have a good night.